What's up, guys? Nate Petrosky from Narrowway Homestead. I did a podcast with a friend of mine. I don't normally talk about religion at all on my channel, particularly here on YouTube. On TikTok, I did have a little sub-channel that I posted to like 8 months ago or something. I did an interview with a friend of mine. His name is Tom Powell. He has 1.4 million followers on TikTok. He is a atheist, and I am not an atheist. Anyway, we're friends. We're going to get into it on here. We didn't do any kind of debate. There was no back and forth craziness. We're just a couple friends talking about our different beliefs, agreeing to disagree, and having fun. Any videos that I do based on religion, I basically give a disclaimer and say, if you don't want to know about it, don't watch it. So it's here. There's your warning. As you guys have probably figured out by now, I don't curse in any of my videos. There is some cursing in this video. Just a forewarning. It's the internet. You guys are probably used to it by now. But anyway, let's get into it. Well, hey, thanks for joining my podcast, very first podcast I've ever done, although I have a feeling I'm going to be interviewed just as much as you.
I thank you for having me, man.
And let me just give you an introduction. I don't know if I should go over the top. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tom Powell, book author, big TikToker, landscaper, former landscaper, business owner, multiple business owner.
Yeah. All of the above.
All of the above. All of the above.
Jack of all trades, master of nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same category I put myself in. So yeah, religion.
Yeah.
We have very different beliefs, and I don't normally talk about religion at all on my channel, primarily because it's not something that people can really just talk about, it seems like, anymore. It's always like, you believe what I believe or else type of thing, and it just puts a whole negative connotation around the whole thing. And it's really why I stay away from it. It's not that I'm afraid of religion or ashamed of my religion. I know I believe stuff that a lot of people don't, but like, why can't people just be friendly and learn from each other? And at least if you disagree with somebody, understand their point of view.
Yeah. If there's no harm being done, I'm of the opinion, believe what you want, do what you want, worship how you want. As long as you're not inflicting some type of harm, and that doesn't just mean physical harm, on somebody else in the name of your belief.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you have a bunch of questions for me. You might have difficult questions for me that you hope to stump me on. I'm sure at least in the comments on this video later, there's going to be all kinds of stuff. It's like, why didn't he grill you about this? I'm like, I don't know, I didn't think of it. Like,
I'm just going with the flow as to whatever it is about religion that you'd like to discuss.
perfect.
As you said, we have very different beliefs, so I'm sure there's something on your mind that you'd like to maybe touch on when it comes to our difference in opinion.
For sure. Yeah, no, I just want to have a discussion, and I've got a bunch of friends that do this sort of thing, and I'm sure they're going to be watching this, and they just love to do debates with each other, and I just don't do debates. I don't think it really solves anything, and it usually leaves hard feelings somewhere along the way.
Yeah, that's why I don't do them either. People, because as you know, I talk a lot of politics, and so I get asked constantly, why don't you debate this guy? Why don't you? And it's always the same thing. It's always, you would own him. I don't care. I don't, because every single political debate I've ever seen winds up being 2 hours of two people screaming over each other, nobody agreeing with anybody, followed by 2 weeks of each content creator making content at the other person talking about how they won.
Right. Absolutely.
And it's pointless. And so I don't do it with politics, and I don't do debates with religion. Like you said, if somebody wants to have a conversation about religion, fine. People ask me all the time, why don't you believe in other Christ? Because I'm more of a, for better or for worse, right or wrong, I'm more of a tangible evidence kind of guy, right? So
sure.
I used to be a landscaper, as you mentioned. This is one of my old scales, right, for doing my drawings. I'm sure you've seen one of these in your life.
I certainly have.
Right. I believe that this scale exists because I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it. If it's been through enough, I can smell it. So there's proof that it exists. And when it comes to, in my world, when it comes to any supreme being, it seems to me like it's almost entirely based on faith and belief, and no evidence whatsoever. And so, just for my own purpose, and listen, it is my own purposes. I'm married to a believer. All three of our kids are baptized.
Sure.
I have a godfather. I picked the godfather for all three of my kids, despite the fact that I don't believe in any of that. Why? Because, like you said, we can get along. We can have a difference of opinion.
Sure.
I'm sure would like for me to believe, and I'm sure I would like for her to maybe pray less.
Yep. No, I get it. And I'm kind of in a similar boat as far as at least relationship. I would classify myself as a Torah believer, which basically is believing in the first 5 books of the Bible being the authority over the rest of the book and over my life. Now, notice I said my life, not everybody else's life. Do I think it should be over other people's lives? Well, I think that's up for them to decide. So, like, I may have an opinion whether I think everybody should follow it or not, but I'm going to let you decide if you want to follow it. I mean, if God left it as a choice for mankind, then you choose for your own self. I'm not going to choose for you.
See, and I'm sure you recall the video I made about you.
I do.
When it came to the religion, and I got a handful of private messages in regard to that video, and they're like, but you don't believe, it doesn't matter if I believe. The fact that I could have a conversation with that guy, or I could watch months and months and months of his content and never know that he was devoutly devoted to his religion, is a testament to his religion. Because I have so many people that just beat me over the head with it. You should believe. I'm going to pray for you. You're going to hell.
Absolutely.
Why do you care? Why
Right?
Why do you care?
Sure. Well, I mean, they're supposed to care. And I mean, to be fair, like I'm sure you've heard this a gazillion times. If you saw somebody in a burning building, you'd do whatever it took to get them out. Like, so
Yes.
I'm not saying that what they're doing is right. I'm saying that's their perspective and I get where they're coming from. However, I'm in the same boat as you, whereas I've been definitely preached at, like, and I still am, like, because I believe what I believe, more Old Testament, if you will, than New Testament type of thing. All sorts of Christians are all up and down all my comments and all upset at me. And it's like, okay, now I guess I get a taste of what it feels like to be an atheist, in a Christian crowd. Like, it's kind of rough here.
Yeah, you're an outsider. You're an outcast all of a sudden.
I sure am. I sure am. And I kind of get a taste the other way too, because I mean there's a lot of atheists that are very aggressive in their approach as well.
Oh,
And so I get that too. And so it's like, man, I'm getting it from both sides. I'm either like totally wrong or maybe right or possibly most likely partially right in a bunch of things and partially wrong in a bunch of things.
right. I mean, that's the way it's. You're going to be wrong more times than you're going to be right. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
on this
yeah,
one, here's the bottom line on this one. Neither one of us are going to know until the end.
absolutely. Yeah. Yep, no, and that's the difficult thing with religion is, I'm convinced I'm right while knowing that there's a possibility I'm wrong. And let me tell you, I have believed a gazillion different things over the years. I've been regular Christian, I've been conservative Mennonite, back to regular Christian. I was almost agnostic for a while, and I've come to this Torah observance, which I almost hesitate to use the word because there's a bunch of Torah observant people, whether it's Christians, whether it's Messianics, that are groups that I don't necessarily agree with what they do. So, like, any label I give myself automatically attaches me to other groups, and it's like I'm my own person. Like, I got a lot of similarities to you, but I don't know what your group's doing. I don't know if I want to be associated with it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just tough. But yeah, no, it's I just really like to be laid back with what I believe. And I kind of want to answer this question as well, but I want to ask you, why do you believe what you believe? So I believe if you don't believe there is a God, or you at least see no evidence for God, why is it that you believe that way?
Um, the several parts. The first part being what I had talked about earlier with the lack of physical evidence.
Yep.
So I was raised on my mother's side. My mother's side of the family, my grandfather immigrated from Sicily, so that was just pure European Italian Catholicism. It
Mm-hmm.
was just kneel, stand, kneel, stand, kneel, stand, body of Christ. It was just fuck Catholic, Catholic, Catholic. My dad's side of the family was like this. So my dad comes from Southern Indiana coal miners, live back in the hills. And I would say there's some born again sprinkled in there. So there's some Baptist sprinkled in there, but they're definitely all Christ believers, right? They're definitely all, we're going to church on Easter, we're going to church on Christmas, we're going to go to church a handful of Sundays, but not every Sunday. We're gonna say things like, forgive me if this is offensive. We're gonna say things like "God damn it," but then we're gonna go, "We shouldn't say that," and we'll whisper it. You know what I mean? That kind. So I
Right.
was raised in these dueling, but like neither one of my parents were hardcore devotees of either one of their religious backgrounds. So we never went to church as a kid unless it was a major holiday. And as I grew up, I began to ask a lot of questions about it. I began to ask, so it began really for me with the fact that I had been told my entire life that God is an all loving God and sees everything and knows everything. And then I entered this period of my life where right after my parents split up, my mother would just beat the living shit out of me. Right. And I don't mean
Right.
a spanking. It wasn't go pick your own switch. It was full blown beatings to the point where I was taught by my mother what I was supposed to say to other adults about my new bruises and my new scars. And
Sure.
so one of the chapters in my first book is entitled "The Kid Who Fell,"
Okay.
because I was always telling adults I fell again. They must have thought I was the clumsiest kid ever. And so I began asking questions like, well, if he sees everything and he's all knowing, then why the hell is he letting this happen to me? What did I do?
Sure.
And then I started asking questions about his existence. And one of the things that people got hung up on over and over and over again that just I couldn't get my brain around was, I would say, they would say God created the earth. God created the heavens and the earth. And I would come back with, okay, fine. Who created God? What created God? And the answer was always the same thing. He just always was. Now, listen, the human mind is not capable, in my opinion, of picturing something from nothing, right? The
Right.
human mind is not capable of seeing us hold an empty box, and all of a sudden, poof, there's something in the box, right? Because that's magic in our world.
That's
But
right.
at the end of the day, we had to come from somewhere, right? So the two prevailing theories are: we came from an almighty being who created us, the creation theory, or the Big Bang theory. The problem that I have with both of them is that when you get down to the nitty gritty and you ask the creationist, well, who created the creator? And you ask the Big Bang people, well, okay, well, who created or what created that first atom that exploded? Neither one of them have an answer, because we're not meant to know that answer. We're not evolved enough to know that answer. And so everybody's just guessing. So once you get down to the point where you believe that everybody is just guessing, you then start looking for evidence on both sides. And what in my world, what I found was a ton of faith here and then a ton of physical evidence here to suggest that wherever the earth came from, we as humans, we can clearly see some kind of a physical path that we came from a lesser life form, that we evolved from a lesser life form. And so when I see the physical evidence up against the faith, and neither side has an answer to how all of this stuff started, my mind leans towards the physical evidence and goes, well, there's evidence of stuff over here. And over here, I'm just supposed to believe it on blind faith. Now, with obvious exceptions to present company, you take all of that and you combine it with the fact that the people that were the God-loving people in your life were the ones that were treating you the shittiest your entire life. You look around and you go, all right, I'm out. And I don't believe any of this shit. You can sell it to me all day long, but if you want to believe it, cool, man, go believe it. I'm out. I'm done. And so that's kind of like how I got to where I got to. But I'm not. If you have an ounce of logic, you cannot say that you are 100% certain on anything. Like you said, I believe that there is a God, but I know that there's that 0.1% chance that I'm wrong. I know there is no God, but I also know that I don't know that. So I'm an agnostic atheist when I believes
Absolutely.
99.9% in the fact that there is no God, there is no soul, there is no heaven, there is no hell, and that what we are all highly organized bundles of borrowed energy from the earth. And when we die, in my opinion, we don't go somewhere. We return our energy where it came from. And part of me is going to go off and be in a dandelion, and part of me is going to go off and be in a stream, and part of me is going to go off and be in a tree somewhere, because that's what it is. We borrow this energy for a finite amount of time, and then we give it back.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's actually a really clear, concise synopsis, if you will, of how you arrived at what you believe at and why. That makes perfect sense.
It's also a bit of a ramble, so I apologize for that.
That's all right. That's all right. I have no idea how long this is going to go, but we'll just go until we're bored or tired, whichever.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. So my answer to the same question, why do I believe what I believe? Kind of have a similar story, if you will. I don't know if you watched my What the Hell Happened series. You probably didn't, because it's like 4 hours long, and did not.
Bits and pieces. I'm working on it.
Gotcha. Yeah, no. So I've had my share, in growing up, and my home life wasn't the best home life ever. I wouldn't describe it in the way you described yours. Not by a long shot. But I pretty much went through the same phase when I was in my early 20s. I was around all these Mennonites. They were all harping on me, saying, just pointing out stuff like, this proves that you're, not a good person. And I looked at myself and I'm like, you know what? It does prove I'm not a good person. And so they kind of convinced me that I wasn't a Christian and I wasn't saved and all this stuff. So then I went to be kind of a reverse Calvinist. A Calvinist believes that God predestines you for heaven and you have no choice in the matter. But I was reversed. So I was predestined to hell and I had no choice in the matter. I didn't believe God didn't exist. I believed he was sending me straight to hell, and there was nothing I could do in this life to change it. Um,
Wow.
it was kind of it was just the convincing of all these religious people, and that's all I was surrounded by. And so that's where I ended up. And the reason I still believed in a God was because throughout my childhood, throughout my life, there were just things that kept happening that convinced me that God existed. And as my life has gone on, I couldn't prove to you God exists, but to me, these things prove that God exists. And that's just where I'm at. Like, I believe it, and I think there's zero chance of me being wrong. There is a chance of me being wrong, but I think there is zero chance of me being wrong.
Right. Yeah.
At least about that specific thing. So I lived my life in accordance with that. And eventually, there were all these things that happened that just led me to believe that I wasn't an outcast from God. And it was kind of my philosophy that I was just going to show God, you know what, I'm going to live as righteously as I can, and you can reject me in the end, and that's fine. I'll spit in your face as I go down to the fiery pit, because I did my best and you still rejected me.
Right.
That's no longer my opinion. But that's what I was thinking. I pretty much got convinced just through all kinds of circumstances that I just don't believe can happen unless there's a supernatural being, or either that, or I have to believe that, like, throughout my life, about 500,000 random coincidences all happened. So it's honestly the coincidences upon coincidences, me doing certain things, following different things in the scriptures that I believe to be right. Um, Better things happened to me. And it's not to say that life was perfect and people still treated me awfully, but I saw a difference between me doing my best and things working out for me, and people attacking me and putting me down and causing me trouble. I saw a group of people causing me trouble, and I saw the Creator seeming to provide me a way out. So for
Okay.
me personally, that's kind of where I ended up. And there's a bunch of stuff about the Bible I don't totally understand. And to be fair, this is, let's just talk about the Torah specifically, the first 5 books of the Bible. It's from Hebrew. It's very old, probably the oldest copies haven't been found of it, but it's very old, been passed down, translated, transliterated, other books have been added. There's other books that some groups have added, like the Catholic Church, that other groups have taken out, and it's this whole thing. And so, for me to actually, I believe God exists, and I believe He wants something from me. For me to accurately say I know exactly what that is, or for me to explain certain passages that make me just scratch my head and like, what? I just don't understand. And so you said it, you said yourself, there's just things that you just can't understand.
Yeah.
About the creation of the world, for example. Well, there's things about what I believe that I can't understand. And honestly, the creation of the world is one of them. I believe the earth is 6,000 years old. I'm not 100% on that. I might be 60% on that. So I'm just like, I don't know.
Now I've known some people that believe that, right? I actually worked for a gentleman
Sure.
that believed that. I can't remember what faith he was. And we had a rather interesting conversation in regard to dinosaurs then.
Right.
So where do you stand on the existence of dinosaurs?
Well, I mean, they probably existed. I think they found fossils of creatures, and you probably know the whole creationist argument where, before the flood, after the flood, the flood wiped out the dinosaurs. I'm not a geologist. I don't understand fossils. I am not a religious person with like a literal telephone to the creator to be like, hey, how did that go again? I don't
If you
know.
were, you'd be killing it. You'd be killing it.
I would, and so like I get so far into these conversations, and I'm like, whether the Earth is 2 million years old, billions of years old, 6,000 years old, I have enough problems to worry about. I'm happy to be wrong about that, and treat my neighbors nice. And I literally don't research it much, and people might call me ignorant, and people might say, "Well, you're just believing the wrong thing." Okay, possibly, cool. Yeah, I got ducks to feed.
See that, and that's the point. Is to those people who look at you and go, "Well, you're not researching it, so therefore you're ignorant."
Nope.
That's the problem right there, right? Because I would look at you and say, well, you're being ignorant. If you were running around telling people, no, you're wrong. The Earth is 6,000 years old, and you're gonna believe that dinosaurs existed before the flood, and then man after the flood, yada yada. If you were like trying to get legislation passed, trying to
Right.
change textbooks in schools, or haranguing people in the streets, yeah, I'd look at you and go, well, you ignorant fuck, you didn't go research anything. But
Yeah.
but if that's what you believe, and this is what I believe, I see it all the time, right? The people that live immediately to this side of us are hardcore believers. They're in church every Wednesday, every Saturday, every Sunday. They are just
Sure.
church driven religious people. Get along great. Guy
Cool.
behind me is a believer, far right wing conservative Republican. He's got full access to my workshop back there. Anything you need, you go grab. The guy across the street, so Catholic. His kid, we have an excellent school system, yet he sends his kid to the next town over because they got a Catholic school system over there. So it's just uber Catholic and a libertarian. And we
Okay.
get along. We hang out in the driveway and we talk and we bullshit. We get along great. Why?
That's
Because
awesome.
nobody's trying to push their shit on anybody else. We talk about football, and the guy
Right.
behind me, I talk about if you ever see me outdoors showering in my new outdoor shower, just look away because I always wanted an outdoor shower. We're not haranguing people about our religion, and it's once again, it's one of the things that I dig about you having this conversation. See, I had no idea that you believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old, and I know several people that believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old. I personally don't believe the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Sure.
My believing that it's 8 billion years old doesn't hurt you, like your 6,000 years old doesn't hurt me.
Right. Yeah. No. And I mean, going back to politics a little bit, I'm really not a political guy. I just don't get involved. Again, I've got other stuff to do. Like maybe someday when I'm old and cranky, or maybe I'll get more into it, but probably not. Like I'm still gonna have stuff to do.
Old and cranky. See, old and cranky.
Right. There we go. Well, hey, it's all coming together.
How old are you again?
I am 38.
38. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, a few more years, hopefully, maybe. I mean, I could get cranky earlier. You never know.
I was a teenager when you were born.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, on the yeah, the whole believing different things. Like I kind of, so I believe God exists. I believe that we are his creation and we are supposed to live in a certain way to please him. I also believe that the way he wants us to live is most healthy for us as a society, for humanity, but I don't believe it requires a hierarchy of bureaucrats to explain all this. At the same time, I don't believe it requires a hierarchy of priests and pastors and it's the same thing, whether it's politics or religion, they all have their politics, all the way
So
up in there.
the organized part of religion bothers you.
It does. And I think there would be like some kind of organization at some point. But I think like it's literally going to be at a point where God reestablishes an entirely new earth somehow. And everybody's just going to be on the same page at that point. So if God does something to totally prove he exists by like literally showing up, changing the sky, moving mountains around and like forming you a mansion or something somewhere, like at some point you're probably going to be like, okay, this is not computing with what I used to think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Likewise, if I go and die and well, nothing happens. Well, I guess I just don't know anything, do I? Like, and
Exactly. You and I won't have a chance to chat about it.
no, we're not going to get a chance to talk about it.
However,
You know,
if the other happens, if you see the big guy coming, I'm just saying, put in a word for me. You know what I mean? Just tell him I'm an okay cat. You know what I mean?
right, sure, no, and I've got more questions than anything for the creator of the universe, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be in a position to be able to be like, hey, what's up with this? Because there's a bunch of stuff in the book that I
Give me
don't understand.
give me a couple of those questions.
Um, I'm probably gonna ask him about I don't know, children suffering, for example, children dying of starvation. There's like, I mean, the suffering in the world is ridiculous. And I'm not gonna like I understand in my religion why suffering exists. Mankind was bad, mankind is under a curse, the entire earth is under a curse, but there's still some kind of innocence there, and people have stuff happen to them that they did not deserve and was I'm just going to ask and I have some theories on how he might answer. Maybe he knew he knows everything in and outside of time, so he knew that these people were all going to grow up to be Hitler. Probably not going to be his answer, but I'm trying to rationalize in my mind, how can he do this? And one of the things I came up with is, how you're playing a game or editing an Excel sheet or something in a Word document and you mess it all up, you press an undo button. If he's all
Mm-hmm.
powerful, which he has to be, and he's all knowing, which he has to be, then maybe he's just going to be like, yeah, I'm going to hit the undo button, and it literally will not have happened. Is this my
Interesting.
is this my human mind trying to process something I don't understand? Absolutely, it is. I have no freaking idea how any of it's going to work. But if I go up there and find out God was just like, well, just part of the suffering, and those children just all had to suffer and there's nothing for them, and they didn't accept this savior that I sent, and they grew up to be bitter old men and just became atheists, but too bad on them. um well, I don't know. I hope I still have free will at that point, because if I find them marching off into a pit of hell, I'm gonna take off any kind of angel wings and crowns and royal things about me living good, and I'm going with those guys. Like, the hell with it. I'll burn in all eternity before I serve some kind of God that was unjust. So he absolutely has to be a just God, or I want no part of it. I don't know if he's a just God. I believe he is. I do not fully know. Am I 99.9% sure he is? Yes. Do I have any idea how he's working any of this out? No, but he has to, or I wish I was not a part of
Interesting. Interesting.
it.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
Let's and I'm trying to figure out how to formulate it. I came into this with no notes because I didn't know how the conversation was going to go.
sure.
Let's say it was possible, and it's not. We know it's not, but let's just say for a moment it was possible for somebody to be able to present to you evidence to show you that there was no God, that we are all just from the earth, as I had said, highly evolved bundles of borrowed energy, and that
Yeah.
there was no soul, there was no heaven, there was no hell, and that what you see happening on the earth is just how some human beings are. There really just are some human beings that are messed up in the head, and there are other human beings that are very kind. Would you change the way you live your life if you knew there wasn't an afterlife? I have my
Um,
theories on how you're going to answer this, and I'm going to tell you how I think you're going to answer it in a moment.
Good, good. I'm glad. I would say these coincidences I talked about would have to be somehow explained, but assuming that these people with this evidence have explained all those coincidences, I wouldn't change how I live my life. I would still take Saturdays off. I would still not eat pig. I would still not consume pork. I would still live exactly the way because I've seen actual benefits in my life that seem to not have any connection to it, but I've still seen actual benefits to living the way I'm doing, like actual financial benefits, time saving benefits. It makes no sense to anyone else. It makes sense to me. Um, so those things would all be explained and I would understand the different logic behind it. And I would probably be like, yeah, and I'd switch. And I'd also believe in the back of my mind that there's some chance that they're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But so
See,
my
I
belief
didn't
would
think,
change, but my actions probably really would not.
yeah, I didn't think your actions would change either because you hear a lot of people. Well, I hear a lot of people because I have these conversations with them because I'm an atheist. I hear a lot of people talking about how the good book, the word of Jesus Christ, the Gospels are what keep them on the straight and narrow, or what make them live a good life. And I always say the same thing: you need that book to live a good life, because there's evidence of human beings being good in that book pre Jesus, pre
Sure.
people knowing about Jesus. The parable of the Good Samaritan. All right.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
good Samaritan stops and helps somebody that is really, to boil it down in the most simplest of terms. The Samaritan stops to help somebody who's really his enemy because it was the right thing to do. And
Yep.
we know that he didn't do this because of the word of Jesus, because Jesus witnessed this. And
Right.
so this was all before anybody knew about Jesus. And so I contend that most of us just want to be good. But I don't want to take your stuff because I don't want you to take my stuff. I don't want to hurt you because I don't want you to hurt me. I don't want to come fornicate with your wife because I don't want you to come fornicate with my wife. And I didn't need a book to tell me that. And I don't think that you do either. I think that you live your life by a religious code, but I think that religious code were gone, you would still just live a good life, because you
Sure.
just seem like somebody that just wants to live a decent life. Just, I'm going to do my thing and just shut up. I'm going to be on the mountain. We're all cool, and I'm kind of
Right.
like, I'm like the for, don't take it the wrong way, I'm like the civilization part of that. Like I'm in the urban part going, yeah,
Right.
that I'm going to be over here doing my thing. You do yours, and just we're cool, man.
Sure. Sure. No, I completely get it. Yep. And no, and in the same breath, like I think, if I'm right and God exists and at the end of time, people are going to scream at me about works-based salvation, but I think he's going to look at everybody on a case-by-case basis. I think he'll literally be able to go into every single thought the person had, every single action the person took. I think he'll look at a timeline of the life and he'll look at the decisions that were made, and everybody made screwed up decisions. Everybody has had bad thoughts that they should not have had. Like, you're delusional if you think otherwise. And I think, if that happens and it all comes out, you'll find out some people that look pretty good are like the most ugly, disgusting people as possible on the inside and throughout their life. As far as I'll go into salvation a little bit, I don't believe salvation exists until you're dead and go through this process. And so, like, I am not saved. Like,
Okay.
I'm still here with the rest of you. Like, you imagine a bunch of people drowning in a lake, well, as soon as somebody throws you the life preserver and you say the right words and hold on to it, are you saved, or are you still bobbing around in the water? You're not saved until you're out of the water. So we are not saved until we're out of here. And a lot of people say it's a works-based salvation, it's earning your salvation. And I'm almost at the point that, like, I just do the best I can to please God, to live with my fellow man, and whether I'm saved or not at the end is something I'm going to worry about at the end. Like, I'm not constantly like, oh, I want to yell at this guy, but oh, might go to hell if I yell at him. Doesn't cross my mind. I just live the best I can based on what I believe to be
Yeah.
right. And, whether I go to heaven or hell, I don't actually really think hell exists in the form that Christianity presents itself. But yeah.
See, that's what my wife is that way. So my wife's a believer, and she believes that we were created by God, and she believes that we have a soul, and that uh, our loved ones that have passed are in heaven waiting for us. But she does not believe in a hell. She does not believe that her God would ever make his creation suffer for eternity.
Sure.
So I find that a very interesting viewpoint, because most people that you meet that are of a religious viewpoint, at least in this country, right, from a Christianity
Right.
based
Sure.
viewpoint, believe in a heaven and a hell. If there's a heaven, there's
Yeah.
got to be a hell. If there's a hell, there's got to be a heaven. So I
Well,
find hers very interesting in the fact that
I,
she believes one and not the other. And you're like now the second person that I've come across, because I haven't come across any more that have said
that's
something to that effect.
interesting.
So in replace of hell, what do you think exists?
A pit of fire.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, that's sort of
so
hell then.
it kind of is. The whole burning up for all eternity. What happens when you fall in a pit of fire? You die,
Right.
right? Okay, well, I think there's a pit of fire that gets rid of the soul essentially. And at the
Gotcha.
beginning, when God created mankind, and he was mankind was going to live forever, man sinned. God told Adam, that he's not going to live forever, but he's surely going to die. Um, you will surely die. He died as a man, and then will he die on the second death or not? Well, that's dependent on how you lived your life, and whether you followed according to your knowledge. Like, I think the knowledge is a big part of it, because Christianity would really condemn a whole bunch of people that died before Jesus came. Like, that's just the way it would be. And
Mm-hmm.
I think Christianity, in regards to hell specifically, has adopted the tenets of Hellenism, like an ancient religion, which, kind of Hades, some of that folklore stuff. I'm not
Yeah.
super familiar with it, but I don't think that comes from the Bible. I think Christianity is a hodgepodge of a whole bunch of stuff, and ended up, and even Jesus, the Messiah. Christianity is pretty much, each of the groups has remade Jesus in the image that they want him to be. So they've made him a different person, and he's actually, so God had all these different rules that Christians say you don't have to follow anymore. Well, you can eat pork now because Jesus came and died, and you can eat shellfish, and the Sabbath doesn't have to be a day of rest anymore, which is one of the 10 Commandments. Um, but I think they've literally remade the religion and the Messiah in such a way that the Messiah came to die to rid mankind of God's requirements for humanity. And to me, that is a very bizarre position to hold, and one I held for a while until somebody basically presented me with that. And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of silly. The Messiah was supposed to come save us from our sins, and instead he came to save us from God's laws, so we can live however we want and just say a prayer. And now we can live however we want, and murder people, that's fine. Just be sorry later. Don't die before you're sorry. But and none of this stuff was making any sense to me.
No, see, and I agree completely. I don't understand. I've said it a million times, right? So wait a minute. I can go out and I can do whatever I want. I can murder, I can pillage, I can steal, I can burn things down, I can do whatever I want. But as long as I say I'm sorry, I'm good, I'm in.
Yeah.
It just doesn't it didn't add up for me either. It seemed like either I. And so you said another thing. You said you were more Old Testament. I got to do a little digging on what you said. It's a Torah based belief.
Yeah,
So I got
Torah
I want to
observant.
I
Yeah.
want to Torah observant. So I want to do a little bit more reading on that. But one of the things that I never understood about any Christian based the Bible as a whole was the New Testament, right? Well, either the first Bible was the Word of God or it wasn't. Which one is it? And if
Right.
it's the word of God, you don't get to edit that. That's the word of God.
That's right.
There's no
Absolutely.
editing that.
Absolutely. Yep. You're dead
And
right.
so, listen, if you're going to tell me that the first Bible is the Word of God and you believe it, aces, no problem. I don't believe it, but if you believe it, great. But if you're going to tell me that the first book was the Word of God and then it needed a little bit of copy and paste, and we had to tweak it here and tweak it there, then no, that's our book. That's not his.
Sure. Sure. Yep.
So
Absolutely. And
interesting, interesting.
there's a lot.
We got a few, other than the beard, we got a couple things in common. Yours is a little bit more magnificent. You're a little bit more Messiah like in your look. See, here in this country, Jesus looks like you.
That's right. In this country, yeah, I mean, people make Jesus look how they want him to be, and they make him have behaved and said things how they want him to be. And it's just, yeah, that's why there's like a gazillion different versions of Jesus out there, and they all disagree with each other.
Maddening, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Hey, have you get into movie? I know you're heavy in the game. Do you get into movies?
Not a whole lot, no.
I had one on the tip of my tongue just a moment ago. When it comes back into my mind, keep talking. When it comes back into my mind, I'm going to ask you if you've ever seen it because
Okay.
I find it to be. There are a couple of different movies that I think you should watch, but yeah, it's got to come back to the tip of my tongue here in a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, yep. No, I mean, talking about the Torah, the first five books of the Bible, the Old Testament, there's a bunch of stuff, and the comments are probably mad at you by now by not asking like why I'm not out stoning people for being homosexuals or why I'm not out stoning people for like eating ham sandwiches and stuff, because they read into the Old Testament, stoning was totally a thing. There's all kinds of stuff like that, and I don't pretend to have the answers to all of it. I think it's possible that parts of the book are not accurate, but I don't have anything to go off of other than what I've got. So I can also look at it, and it's pretty clear to me that stoning, for example, is something that was done as capital punishment. Well, here in America, we have, lethal injection. We used to have the electric chair. We got a variety of things. There had to be witnesses. Like, it was a whole judicial process if you really look into it. So a number of these things that I look at and I'm like, this doesn't seem cool. So I've studied some of this a bunch, and I come up with an explanation that to me kind of makes sense. I'm like, okay, I can see how this fits. I could see how it was a judicial process. Um, but then people either don't get that idea or say, well, you're wrong. No, it was just like murdering random people with stones as soon as you saw them doing stuff. And I'm like, I don't think so. But again, another question I have for the creator would be like, hey, can you clarify this, at the end of time when I'm like, actually able to comprehend everything that's going on. And if the thing truly was to just be like throwing stones at people that were just doing stuff you didn't like, well, then I want no part of that religion, that God, that society, none of it. But
Well, and see, it's a what? Okay, so now let's flip the script. I said, imagine if somebody could present you with evidence. So let's just assume there is a God for a moment.
all
My
right.
next question would be, did he allow that to happen? Or is that just the world witnessing the actions of, for lack of a better way of putting it, undeveloped people? I mean, at one point in time, we were still going to the doctors for a leeching every time we didn't feel good, and we were
Very
churning our
true.
own butter. You know what I mean? And progress happens, and
Yeah.
we then realize, what, maybe hitting people in the head with stones is really the way to go. But
Right.
it was, so that would be my question: is if he exists, did he allow it to happen, or was that just a product of free will?
Sure. Yep. And no, that's a good question. I mean, it was a different time, and while I still believe if that book is the book that God gave humanity, it's still relevant now. The cool thing is, like, there is no such government set up following. There's no government on this planet that's following what is said in the Old Testament. There's just not. So therefore, all those things that would apply to a people group trying to copy or employ that exact government don't apply because there is no government like that set up doing that. So like, I don't think stoning people doing this or that applies to me at all. I'm a leader of nothing. I'm a leader of nobody. I'm in charge of nothing. The only thing I'm in charge of is me, and the only thing I can change is me. So when it comes to changing behavioral issues, who am I going to change behavioral issues in? Me. That's it. I'm not changing behavioral issues in someone else. Now, people come here swinging axes trying to like lop heads off, in my homestead. I may try to change that behavior, but like generally speaking, if you're not doing something crazy, yeah.
See, so you said a minute ago, the people in the comment section are probably already bitching that I haven't asked you why you're not out stoning people.
Probably.
And it's for that reason, right? It's like because most of the people that I meet that are religious have no desire to go out and stone people to death, or, oh my
Sure.
God, you planted the wrong crops in the wrong field, or you slept with
Right.
somebody before you were married, or whatever the
Right.
case may be. Now, are there extreme people? Yeah. And those are the ones that we spotlight, and those are the ones that we talk about, and those are the ones that we bitch, and those are the ones that we clap back at and go, well, how come if you don't believe that, if you want to pass a law that says that two people can't get married because of your religious belief, then why don't you do the whole damn Bible? How come you're not out stoning people that were adulterous? Blah 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 blah. And
Right.
when I talk to somebody like you, it's like, once again, I don't even know where you stand on gay marriage, and I don't give a shit where you stand on gay marriage because you're not out there pushing wherever you stand on gay marriage down people's throats. So that's why I'm
Sure.
not clapping back at you about why aren't you out stoning people, because it's just, forgive the French, ladies and gentlemen who are watching, but it's fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking
Yep.
stupid.
It is.
He's believing what he believes, and he's doing his thing, and I'm believing what I believe, and I'm doing my thing. And to be honest with you, for all the people that are out there watching, yeah, I'd still go to his mountainside, sit down, and have a goddamn burger and help him feed the ducks, even though we are completely opposite on that belief. Even though we're completely opposite on how we live our lives, because it doesn't matter. If we
For
were all the
sure.
same, it'd be a boring place. If
It
we were all
would.
the same,
It
I
would,
remember the
yeah.
movie. I remember the movie. Have you ever
What
seen
is
M.
it?
Night Shyamalan's The Village?
No, I have not.
All right, so you got some homework. You got to watch
All
M. Night
right.
Shyamalan's The Village
Okay. Okay. That sounds cool.
when you have a chance. Yeah, are you? Do you know who M. Night Shyamalan is?
I have no idea.
Okay, so if I guarantee you, I would bet you anything I own that if you watched two M. Night Shyamalan movies, you'd be like, I want to watch the rest,
Okay.
because it's there. Every one of them goes this way, and it's a damn good movie, damn good movie, damn good movie, damn good movie, and then it goes like this. You're
Okay.
like, holy shit, I didn't see that. Every last one of them. Start with The Village. You're gonna like it.
Okay. I will do that. And I would make a
Yes,
note of it, but I have it video recorded, so I'll be able to scroll to about 45 minutes in and I'll know where I'm at.
exactly. And since you're scrolling to this point in here, I'm going to give you one more movie that's not an M. Night Shyamalan. If you haven't seen it, go watch Into the Wild.
I might have seen that one. I think I did. I think I saw that one.
Christopher McCandless up in Alaska
Yeah.
in the bus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I love that movie.
Awesome.
Love that movie. True story about a
Yeah,
guy who
yeah.
wanted to live very much like you are.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
No, it's cool. I'm fascinated with all kinds of people that live my lifestyle that, you know, aren't me. I'm like, hey, what ideas do you have? Because some of my stuff's difficult. Did you do something easier or what?
exactly. Yeah. And
Yep.
then people will say to people like me, well, why do you like him so much? You would never go live like that. Yeah, I would never. You're right. I would never go live. I would never fly a fighter jet either. That doesn't mean I'm not going to watch Top Gun.
Right? Seriously.
I find shit fascinating. I
Well,
follow like
yeah.
6 or 7 different homesteaders. Uh,
Yep.
Here's something I find amazing to me. It's just the way it's completely off topic, but it's just an example of. I find the medical symptom of Tourette's
Yeah.
to be fascinating, what it does to the human body. And so I follow like a dozen different people that are known for making videos about their Tourette's. And everybody says, well, why do you watch that? Because I find it interesting. What the why
Sure.
do people, and so why I ask the same question back at them. Well, why do you watch me? I'm a
Right.
I'm a I'm a fat old retired landscaper from the Chicagoland area. You got nothing in common with me. Why are you watching me?
And that's exactly
Oh
why
well,
I
well,
watch you.
right. Well, because you keep it real. Okay, well, yeah. Guess who else is keeping it real? All the people who I follow.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, we have so little in common. I find your content fascinating. Like I just do, and your religious discussions, some of your political stuff. Sometimes I disagree with lots of stuff and then forget about what it was and do something else, like, or like at least I like to know how people think. So even if somebody says something that I disagree with everything across the board, it's like interesting. It's like, huh, I wonder how they came to think that way. Oh, I can, you can kind of start putting the puzzle pieces together. Could it, could, could possibly
And
never
see,
agree with them anymore, but
earlier in this conversation, you said something about how we've all had bad thoughts, we've all done bad things, we all have something that we've done that we shouldn't have done.
mm-hmm.
And that's why I talk about all of the bad things that I've done and said. When people talk about, uh, racism or sexism or homophobia or whatever the
Sure.
case may be, and I talk about how, yeah, I used to hold very racist and sexist viewpoints, and people are like, why do you talk about that? Why do you bring that up? Why do you let people know that you used to be such a bad person? And I'm like, well, because there's about 9 million people that know that information on me, first and foremost. And
Sure.
secondly, if I'm going to be out here saying that people shouldn't be racist, let's just say, if I'm going to be out here
Yeah.
saying that people shouldn't be racist, then I got to have full transparency and say, hey, by the way, I was racist.
Right.
So
Sure.
I've got a little bit of experience in this. I know a little bit of what I'm talking about. And so, yeah, is one of the things that I find interesting in any creator is how real they are.
Right.
And you can, I think that you're on the same page with me on this. You can spot the
Absolutely.
fake ones almost instantly. The
Yes.
ones that are out there that are doing a bit, that are doing a skit, that are doing something to get clicks, to get views, because they have to find that niche. The ones that I follow are the ones that built an audience by being real.
Yeah, no, exactly. And sometimes I'm annoyed at myself. Like I totally did an April Fool's TikTok. And I was super annoyed because I couldn't do the April Fool's TikTok without at least in that very video making sure to say April Fool's or I'm kidding. Like I'm like, man, I can't even like I'm like, no, because people are gonna believe it and then they're not gonna watch the second video. If they decide to only watch half the video and believe it, okay, that's on them. But I gotta at least be honest somewhere at the end.
Right, exactly.
It's like, man, but it's annoying. I could have made a much better April Fool's joke if I didn't blow the whistle on my own joke.
Yep. Yeah, everybody, you're gonna listen. It doesn't matter what you do, man. You're gonna piss somebody off. It
Oh,
doesn't matter
guaranteed.
what you do. You're gonna piss somebody off.
Guaranteed.
And you see it be evident way more than me, right? Because you don't talk about the politics. You don't get controversial. You don't
Sure.
yell and scream into your phone and snap
Right.
back at somebody who's being a dumbass in your comment section. And so when people hate somebody like you who isn't
Mm-hmm.
controversial, you're like, okay, you're hating just to hate.
Right.
That guy ain't done nothing, you know?
For sure. No, and I do that, and then sometimes I'm just kind of like, well, maybe I did come off arrogant, maybe this, maybe that, and then my dog gets death threats on his very own TikTok, and I'm like, okay, he's a dog. You people are idiots.
Yep. Yeah,
Like
it's
my dog's
amazing.
getting more death threats than me. Get out of here.
And yeah, people will bitch about anything. They will complain about anything you do. They will find something wrong with what you do. I got people that chew me a new ass because my dog eats an all raw diet. How could you possibly feed your dog raw food? Because it's fucking healthy for him,
Right.
and he loves it. He's 7 years old. He's never had an ounce of kibble. Yeah, he likes his food, and he's
I'll
doing
bet he
just fine.
does. I'll bet he
Yeah,
does. Yeah. Yep. Raw food's good for dogs.
it
Yeah.
is. Supposedly, it's good for humans. I just can't bring myself to do it. I mean, I
Yeah.
won't even eat. I
Mm.
won't even eat sushi. You got to throw my shit over a fire at some point in time.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I hear you. I'll pass on the raw chicken drumstick. Yep.
Yeah, or the livers. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
that's a bit. That's a bit much.
Yeah, just a bit. Just a bit. But yeah, I mean it kind of boggles my mind, like going back to the religion side of things, like the things I choose to eat or not eat, like I don't eat pork, I don't eat shellfish, I don't eat cockroaches. Well, most people don't disagree with that one. Um,
Right.
there's a number of things that I don't eat, and people just go nuts about it and just think it's like, well, I didn't say you couldn't eat it, and since you didn't ask me of if it was my opinion that you should eat it or not, I'm not gonna give you my opinion of about you, but I'm saying for me personally, this is why my pepperoni is made by out of a turkey or out of a cow. Like, yeah,
Yep. And if you don't do it the way they do it, then there's something wrong with you.
that's right. That's right.
There's something wrong with you. And then you just got to look at them and go, okay, so then where's the, and I know it's hard to be, if you're not naturally, forgive my French again, if you're not naturally an asshole, it's hard to be an asshole. But
Sure.
that's where I would snap back at somebody and go, okay, so you got a problem with the fact that I don't eat pork. All right, I got a problem with the fact that you don't eat dog. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, where's the line? Where's the line on which animal you will and won't eat? My
Right.
line is here, your line is there. Who gives a shit?
Sure.
You know, we can still sit around the deck and have a burger because we all agree on a burger, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
then we'll disagree on how it should be cooked.
Yeah, no, that's true. There'll be a whole cooking issue for sure.
Exactly. Speaking of which, are you planning on growing your livestock to be able to live off of it?
Um, I don't know if I'm gonna do it that way or if I'm just gonna keep up the whole like hunting foraging side of it because there's like two sides. You can hunt and forage and get a ridiculous amount of stuff, or you can like raise your own animals like completely and grow your own garden stuff and do it that way, or you can do a hybrid of both. But I do want to get to a point where like, and I honestly I'm not far from it where I could, just say, hey, I don't want to go to the store for 6 months. Let's see if I survive. I think I'd be fine. Maybe not start that in the dead of winter. Maybe start that, during a nice spring, summer, fall season so I can put stuff away. But um,
So
yeah.
there'll be no pig on the farm, but does your religion require, and I don't know, does it require you to remain kosher?
No, it
Okay.
doesn't. Kosher, and that's a good question because a lot of people ask that. Kosher is a Jewish tradition, and I just simply look at Torah best as I can understand it, and they get that from something about do not boil a young kid in its mother's milk. I'm referring to
Okay.
like a goat. And so that's where they get the separation of meat and cheese, for example. And they have
Okay.
all kinds of and I just don't follow. I don't get the I know there's a lot of traditions and stuff, and a lot of people think I'm Jewish and following some version of Judaism. And I would say, no, I don't. First of all, I don't want to take another culture, another religion's name, identity, any of that. I'm just simply looking at this book, believe that this is what God has given mankind, and following it to the best of my ability, and no doubt screwing it up along the way. But
But that's part of life. We all do that.
yeah, but yeah, no,
We
as
all
as
do
far
that.
as keeping kosher, no, but what I do, for an outside perspective, what I do versus what kosher is very, very similar.
Okay. Right on. Good to
Yep.
know. Good to know. Well, hopefully you come to the Chicagoland area at some point in time. I know you used to go through the
Yeah.
Chicagoland area a couple of times, but
Yep.
and I get it. The chance of you getting out here is probably slim in the near future, but you never
It,
know.
you
You
never
never know.
know. I would like to get back there. Honestly, I really enjoyed Chicago. I toured like different downtown areas and like, I stayed away from like the scary areas, but at least I think I did. I didn't go anywhere that seemed scary to me, so seemed all good.
You made it out.
I made it out.
I'm shocked.
I made it
Everybody
out.
tells me you should have never made it out.
Yeah,
Did
no,
you
they
get
they
recognized while you were in Chicago?
oh my gosh. Did I don't think there's anywhere I go that I don't. It's crazy to me. Like just mind-boggling. I kind of forget about it because I stay back here so much and then I go somewhere and like, yeah, I mean
Yeah, it is nuts.
it
I mean, it's
happens.
everywhere.
Yeah.
In line at the shoe store and walking down. I got recognized walking down the streets of Chicago with somebody who's sitting at an outdoor cafe in the airport in Jamaica on a cruise ship. It's like Jesus, Mary. Excuse my French, but it's like or my
Right.
my terminology. It's like, where? Yeah, I know that I have a large following, but I mean, are you people everywhere? Everywhere I turn.
Right.
But when we go on vacation, my wife bets me how many times I'm going to get recognized. We went to Jamaica, a month ago, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to get recognized." We get dropped off by the car. We walk into O'Hare Airport with our bags, and as we're looking for where we check our bags, somebody goes, "Tom, big fan." Puts his hand out, shakes, and my wife turns around, looks at me, and goes, "I win." We didn't even check the bag yet.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, so
That's yeah.
it, it's crazy what
I don't think
TikTok
you
can do to
ever get
people's
used
lives.
to it.
No, you don't. You
Yeah.
don't.
But yeah, I never would have imagined I'd be on an app where it was like that. My favorite story is being in the Pacific Northwest. I'm in West Virginia. Pacific Northwest is west that way a lot. And okay, same country, whatever. So I'm like in the woods because I like the woods, right? So I'm like in the woods, climbing up a mountain and get to the top of it. And here I am talking. There's a dude sitting on a bench watching my YouTube video. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm all the way over here on the other side of the country, climb up a mountain, and here's this dude playing me on his phone.
Right? It's
So
nuts.
yeah, and I just went over to him and said, hey, what you watching over there? And he's like, you. It was pretty funny.
I heard you were watching me, and I flew all the way across the country to talk to you.
Right. Yeah,
Freak
definitely.
them out a little bit.
For sure.
Oh,
Uh,
Nate, this is fun, man. I appreciate it.
yeah, no, it is. It's good. And I kind of figured this is how it would go. We'd kind of just, I mean, we still have different opinions, but we kind of have the same, like, you're not messing with me, not trying to like change the culture into your own like bizarre religious thing. Then, and I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't totally like where the country is sitting at as far as everything that's in schools and how everything works. But I'm not sure if there's some group that I would like pick to say, hey, put all your stuff in instead. Like, yeah, I don't know about all that.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not exactly uh, ecstatic with everything in the country either.
Sure.
Um, from an education standpoint, I still got a kid that's in sixth grade, and uh, I think that we need to step up education a little bit more in this country. From a political standpoint, listen, one of the reasons I know watching your videos, one of the reasons why you like living the way you do is because, for lack of a better way of putting it, for a simplistic way of putting it, you don't like killing yourself 50 hours a week for some government entity to take 40% of your money. And I
Yep,
completely understand it.
for sure.
I'm in the camp of, listen, if you're going to take 40% of my salary in order for society to function, fine. That's the price we pay for admittance. Could you just spend it decently? Spend it the way I would spend it. Give me the most bang
Right.
for my buck. Don't do stupid. We don't need 2.7 million to study the mating habits of the monarch butterfly. We don't need that.
Right.
Let some private firm put up the money because they're interested to learn how butterflies mate. From a governmental standpoint, just service the people. That's what I need you to do. Keep the roads fixed, keep the bridges
Sure.
fixed, keep the army going so nobody fucks with us, and then go do your
Yep,
thing so I can go over here and do my thing.
for
It's part of the
sure.
reason why I dislike so many people on both sides of the aisle is their insistence on getting involved in your life. Which brings us back to the religious conversation. If I meet a
Sure.
religious person that isn't going to push it down, you and I, we've been going for about an hour, and I'm sure we're going to wrap
Yeah.
up here soon. But we could talk for 6 hours, uh, getting very specific about very specific parts of religious belief. And I could
We
go, well, what
could.
about this? And you could go, well, I don't know. What about this? And we could go back and forth. And we could have a very heated debate. We could have a very intelligent debate. But at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, the chances that I'm going to change your mind and the chances that you're going to change my mind are almost zero. But it doesn't matter because you're not one of the people, nor am I, who are out there going, you need to do this or
Right.
you need to do that. I'm of the opinion, once again, I don't give a shit what you do. As long as you don't hurt somebody else and try to pass a law saying that I should do the same thing, we're all good.
Yep.
We're all
Sure.
good.
No, I mean,
Don't pass a law saying you got to do X and you got to do Y. Otherwise, I'm going to want to get in office and I'm going to want to pass a law that says the opposite. And then we're just going to have a big old junk measuring contest and we're going to go nowhere.
yep,
I'd
for
rather sit
sure.
outside the camper with you. You don't have the camper anymore. You're inside. And my apologies.
Right.
You've done a
Well,
lot of
I
work on
do
that
still
building.
have
It
the
is a
camper
beautiful.
sitting there, but
Well,
yeah.
yeah, but I'd rather sit outside the camper with you and talk about feeding the geese than argue about what your belief is versus my belief. You know what I mean? We
Sure.
could have a conversation about it like we have, but it's the argument, the violence, and
Yeah,
like you said, there are militant atheists too that just,
absolutely.
if you don't see it their way, you're a lost fool. It's with the same with everything, with religion, with politics, with social issues. If you're
It
not on my
is.
side, you're on the wrong side, and if you're on the wrong side, then you got to go. And
Yeah.
that's not what this country has ever been about, in my opinion. I know there are a lot of people that would say differently because of our bad past, but I think for the most part, our way of life has been a, at least in my lifetime, I should say, has been a you do you, I'm going to do me kind of atmosphere. And I think that serves everybody the best. And
Yeah. It
listen,
it
that is
does.
not to say, I will say this, as I know we're going to wrap up, but that is not to say that I don't still have a problem with churches not paying taxes. I'm
Right.
I will say that I think that if everybody's supposed to pay the price of admission, then everybody pays the price of admission. If
Sure.
nobody's supposed to pay the price of admission, then somebody owes me a shitload of money.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean like a lot of money.
Sure. Yeah. No, yo, no, it's yeah, the whole structure is certainly not fair, no matter which angle you look at it from, unless, you're the one not paying taxes, then it looks fair. But yeah.
Nate, I'll tell you something. At the end of last year, after at the end of all the taxes and all the business and all the stuff that at the end of it, and when we filed our taxes last year, we still owed 24.
Oh man.
Writing that check was painful.
No doubt. No doubt.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it's
Yep.
like I literally I write it, and I want to wrap it in a letter before I mail it in, saying just spend it wisely. Just spend it. I mean, this worked my ass off for this. Could you just spend it wisely? And I come from a point in my life where I for about 4 years I lived in a tent and I hitchhiked back and forth across this country. I didn't have an address. I didn't have a job. I didn't have legal tender. And
Sure.
when I have to write checks like that, I I look at I've literally, no joke. If I got her in here, she'd tell you. I've literally looked at my wife and said, "Fuck it, we're gonna go live with Nate," and she's like, "No, we don't. No, not until you could build a house. No."
Oh, right.
I'm like, "Well, I'm not building shit because I don't know how. I can landscape the hell out of it, but I can't build
Right. Yeah, no,
it."
I totally understand that feeling. And I literally threw my hands up in the air and sold everything and bought an empty plot of land and said I can build stuff and started building stuff. And I'm still building stuff and I'm gonna keep building stuff. And yeah.
It's going to be nice. I'm sure it's going to be lovely, and I'd love to come visit sometime.
Yeah, well, you'll definitely have to do that, especially once I get things just a little bit nicer. There's like phases where like some people are like, I'd love to visit you, but nah. And then like eventually I'll get to a point where like almost everybody will be like, yeah. And I'll be like, nah.
I will leave you with this because I know the dinner is going to be ready here soon. I will leave you with this. Whether I make time to get out there or I don't make time to get out there in some way, shape, or form, if the zombie apocalypse happens, you will see me coming up the driveway. Just don't shoot first, okay?
Okay.
If you see a blue Jeep Cherokee with license plates that say tacos, just that's me. I'm coming in
Yeah.
hot, and I just need a place to hold up.
And to be fair, at that point, I'm probably gonna want tacos. So yeah, I will wait a little bit just to figure out what's going on.
All right, Nate. Listen, man, I
Oh.
appreciate this, brother.
Yeah, it's been fun. I'm glad you're able to do it. And yeah, thanks for coming on.